First half of the trip was extremely cold with high pressure, blue skies. We had these amazing sun phenomena with the halos and the arcs, and it was incredible, but like really uncomfortable and cold. And then after that blizzard hit at the midway point, we had a low pressure system with us for the remainder of the trip. We had clouds keeping the heat in, but it also produced this super flat light. So there was no contrast at all. It was like skiing inside of a ping pong ball. You couldn't figure out which way was up or down or right or left. You could look down and see that your feet were attached to skis, but you couldn't see any hills. You couldn't see anything at all.
That's Dave Greene, leader of this year's RCGS-flagged Arctic expedition across the Ungava Peninsula. He's also an elementary school teacher and the new Nova Scotia rep on the CanGeo Education Board. He was last on this podcast 2 years ago for our canoe series, for a fascinating talk about his paddling adventures from Great Slave Lake to the western shores of Hudson's Bay. Check that out if you haven't already. I'm thrilled to have him back as my guest on Explore, the Canadian Geographic podcast. Welcome to all you explorers out there, armchair and in motion. I'm your host, David McGuffin, with a quick reminder to get yourself and your loved ones a subscription to Canadian Geographic magazine. It makes an excellent gift for the holidays. For only $28.50 a year, you'll discover what has made CanGeo Canada's #1 magazine. The award-winning journalism and storytelling, photography and maps. And frankly, there is no better way to get your elbows up and wave the flag than supporting the work of Canadian Geographic, making Canada better known to Canadians and the world. To sign up, go to canadiangeographic.ca/subscribe. You'll be very happy that you did. Well, we've got a fresh and deepish layer of snow up here in the Gatineau Valley. So let's layer up, double long johns on, toques down over our ears, and get ready to lean into a frigid Arctic wind with Dave Greene on the Ungava Peninsula. Dave Greene, welcome back to the Explore podcast.
Hey, thanks, David. Thanks for having me in. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Well, you're always up to fascinating adventures, so it's great to get you back on. We had you on a couple of years ago. That was paddling. So I was out in November weather the other day, and it was that rain that's almost snow. It's a little gelatinous.
Yeah.
It's got a little weight to it. So it made me think, okay, we need to prep for winter. And I thought, okay, who's done a painful trip in the Arctic? And I thought, Dave Greene did a painful trip.
Right. That's us.
This was an RCGS flagged expedition and in northern Quebec, in Nunavik, yeah?
That's correct.
So tell us, where was the starting point? What was the raison d'etre for this one?
So the whole purpose of this one was, we called this the Across Ungava expedition. And we flew to the community of Quebec, which is on Hudson's Bay, so the west side of the Ungava Peninsula. And our goal was to ski across the Ungava Peninsula, across the land, all the way to Ungava Bay. And our destination ended up being Kangiqsujuaq, which is locally known as Wakeham Bay. But the purpose of it, was to cross the peninsula safely and efficiently, of course, but also to get to the Pingualuit Crater, which is just about right in the middle. It was close to our halfway point, but the crater itself was made about 450 million years ago. It's an impact site from a meteor that struck the crust of the earth. So when you're traveling through a tundra environment, the pimple or the ring of the meteor impact site, it's a pretty pronounced geographical place. It was our goal to get there and see that.
How big an impact ring is that?
It's about 4 kilometers. It's a perfect circle, and it's about 4 kilometers in diameter.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite large.
And so you didn't do this in summer?
No, we did not. Yeah, we flew up there it was middle of March when we got to Quebec to start our trip. So
the days are getting longer, at least.
The days were at least getting longer. If not warmer, the days were getting longer. Yeah, by the time we finished our trip, we had about 3 hours extra daylight than we did at the beginning. So they were increasing by about 9 minutes a day. Quite significant.
It's a lovely feeling. So the starting point is Quebec?
That's correct.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
And so what's that community like, just to begin with?
I mean, it's just like a small hamlet right on the shores of Hudson's Bay. I think this is probably about 1,000 people there, 1,200 people. Pretty close-knit, pretty small town. And professionally being a teacher, I made some great contacts there. There actually happens to be 2 teachers in the community of Quebec teaching from Nova Scotia. And I'm from Nova Scotia as well. So I made that connection there. And one of the teachers picked us up at the airport and took us to the northern store and then took us to the school, which is often the community center of these communities as well. And we did our final packing preparation and slept in the school the night before we left to start our expedition.
Nice to have that connection with the community.
Yeah,
too.
it's always. Yeah. I think it's always good for adventurers or explorers to reach out to the communities because we're trying to gather information first and foremost, but also just to make that connection. And oftentimes, schools, being the community hubs, will have places for you to go or stay or use while you're there, because otherwise it can be really challenging.
And I guess people there will know the land.
Big time. They have the best knowledge about the land for sure. So trying to get that firsthand information from the locals one-on-one is the way to do it, because without like personal connections to these communities, it's really hard to get information as a Southerner.
So what are you hearing as you head out?
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Pretty much. I wouldn't be doing that if I were you. You should have a guide with you. Yeah, no, don't do that. Do you have a snowmobile? No? Okay. Maybe rethink this. No, nobody's traveled that way in a long time. I'm not sure about the route myself. This type of thing. Yeah.
But at least someone knows where you're going is the part of it.
Which is often the case, which I've seen before in canoes and other trips, but in canoes particularly, never ask locals in motorboats for directions because they don't have the same concept of time as we do.
No, not at all. Okay, so it's March. So temperature-wise, what are we looking at?
Okay, so this trip can be characterized into 2 parts for sure. The first half of the trip, from the beginning to about the midway point, we had a high-pressure system sitting over top of us, and it was very cold. It was, in the true sense, an Arctic experience. And David, that was what I was going for with taking on a project like this. I'd always wanted to go on an Arctic-style ski trip where we pull a pulk or sled behind us, travel slowly and efficiently. But it's just for your regular, everyday person, your cop, nurse, and teachers out there. Travel to the Arctic can be very expensive. It can be it's a huge barrier. So to get up to Ellesmere Island or Greenland or Antarctica and get that type of Arctic travel experience, it's just out of reach. It's just really nearly impossible to pull off. So I'd done my research and I figured I could get a similar experience. A good place to cut my teeth in Arctic travel would be to head to Nunavut, which is northern Quebec, and take on this Across Ungava project. It's feasible. Logistically, it's pretty easy to get to, and it's relatively cheap to get to the starting point. And there's commercial flights that go to the starting and the ending points.
Oh, interesting.
It just made sense for us as a starting point in this type of travel to go up to this part of Canada.
And so you got 2 other guys with you, right?
Yeah, that's right. I took Chris Giard, who's a longtime expedition partner of mine, and then we took another local from Nova Scotia, Lee Fraser, along with us as well. So we had three men on the team.
Your Instagram's great, Greener Adventures, if anyone wants to sign up for it, because always lots of good stuff on there. But there's one post you had where you're like, first couple of days, every mound of snow looked like a polar bear.
We were stepping outside of our comfort zone on this one big time. I'd never traveled through a landscape that polar bears call home in earnest before. And right off the bat, traveling down Hudson's Bay coastline, we were in that habitat. And we were scared, and rightfully so. Fear just shows respect for the land. And yeah, every block of ice that we skied by could have been a polar bear, and every shadow and every gust of wind at night. Those first couple of days, we were all very much on edge.
Don't keep us in suspense. Was there a polar bear?
There was not. No, we didn't see any. We didn't see any tracks or any sign of any at all. No.
Yeah.
No. And I'm okay.
So lucky.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Maybe in the distance on the last day, it'd be fine. But yeah. Those are full-on predators. Those are top of the food chain, and we're not.
That's
necessarily.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So we're way above the tree line there.
Way above the tree line up here. Yeah, we're 400 or 500 kilometers north of the tree line.
So fairly flat and windswept, or what are we looking
Generally speaking, yeah, the landscape was flat-ish. But the landscape very much dictated our route of travel. We'd poured over the maps hundreds of times before we left. It wasn't until we had our feet on the ground and we were moving that we decided on a route that would suit us best. It was very apparent right off the bat that the river corridors would also be our routes of travel as well. We would for the first 10 days, we went up the Iktotat River, which led us into the Bervernatuk River. But those river valleys, and we would just keep the valley on the south to our right, and to the north on our left, and just follow the contours of the river inland. And as we were doing this, to get back to an earlier question you had, the first 10 days, the first 2 weeks of the trip were characterized with a high-pressure system that was really cold. We were seeing temperatures on our thermometer in the morning of minus 37, minus 40, and that's just ambient air temperature.
That's not wind chill.
No wind chill in there at all. So it was...
And there was wind. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The snow we were traveling across was super wind-packed, mostly wind-blown. There's a lot of rocks sticking out and ice on the lakes and the rivers and whatnot, too. So, yeah, the wind chill on top of the cold ambient air temperature was a real factor for us, big time. Yeah.
And you mentioned you gained like 3 hours of daylight in that period that you were out there. What is your day looking like in terms of sunlight when you're starting out?
We did train physically before we left. We broke it up into thirds. So it was 8 hours of travel, 8 hours of sleep, and 8 hours of chores. So we found that routine and did our best, and we did. We stuck to it through the length of the trip.
So what would that work out to in a day then, roughly, in terms of
kilometers? We'd get up at about maybe 6:30 in the morning, and then chores, melting the snow to make your water for the day, would take a couple hours. And by the time you packed up, those mornings are probably the most memorable part of the trip, David, is trying to get through your chores and pack your sled at minus 40. You can only really be able to accomplish one, maybe half of a step or a chore at a time before having to stuff your hands back into your pants or your armpits and pace through the campsite till you could get some semblance of feeling back into your fingers to finish clipping your bags together or packing up your sleeping bag or whatever the chore might be. But it was really cold. Yeah, it was a type of cold that I don't think any of us had really experienced before. Just with that type of wind chill, it really did feel like the wind was a living, breathing entity that was trying to get at us at all times. Unrelentless.
So I remember being up in the Victoria Island in December, and I didn't really get out on the land that much. By talking to the guy who ran the Hunters and Trappers Association up there,
yeah.
I'm like, and it was minus 50 kind of thing. I'm like, there's no way I'm surviving this. And so he's like, the key is to stay out of the wind as much as you can. Like the wind is the thing that'll kill you. But you guys lived.
We did. We lost quite a bit of skin on the ends of our fingers, and the tips of our nose, our cheeks peeled pretty good at the end of the journey. Parts of my feet peeled off too. So there was quite a bit of frost nip that touched our skin pretty much every day. And this type of temperature, it's really hard to describe to somebody accurately how it feels and what it's like to manage who hasn't experienced it before. The difference between minus 20 and minus 30 is exponential. It's exponentially colder. So then to go from minus 30 to minus 40, like it's hard to even fathom how you feel and how difficult it is to do anything, even think. Even the thinking, the brain fog was a real thing for us out there. Trying to make good decisions while being really uncomfortable.
Wow. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so I made one very poor decision along the length of the trip. And it was on one of those mornings when it was minus 40 and we were just trying to pack up our sleds so that we could get moving and get the blood moving through our bodies. We brought 4 1-liter MSR fuel bottles with us and then 4 4-liter white gas jugs. So we would have to refill our bottles every once a week kind of thing. Once you crack open that white gas can, you really want to empty the contents into your fuel bottles because you don't want any risk of your sleds flip over all the time, and you really don't want any leakage. And you're also relying on that white gas as your fuel to melt your snow and cook your food and all these things, right? So it's super, super important. One of these days that we were refilling our MSR bottles, the thread on the cap did not get screwed on properly, and quality control the two guys who were filling the bottles missed it, and then they passed the bottle to me, and I didn't check it or missed it. And then I made the fatal error that everybody knows not to do. We don't store our gas in the same place as our food. But at -40 with frozen fingers that morning, I just grabbed the bottle and stuffed it into my sled and didn't think about it again until the end of the day when I opened up my tank or my sled bag and I pulled out the fuel bottle and it was empty. And I looked at the guys, I'm like, didn't we just fill these up this morning? These are all supposed to be full, right? And they're like, yeah, those are supposed to be full. And then I just started pulling everything out of my bag, and 1 whole liter of white gas had leaked out slowly and covered a lot of the gear inside of my tank. And it ended up ruining probably about 15 days of lunches for me. So that was a problem upon itself. We had enough food and the other fellas pitched in. I went hungrier than they did, but not detrimentally hungry. Like, I was okay in the end. But the problem, David, is that in these extreme cold temperatures, your sense of taste and smell go away. You don't really take cheese, for instance. If you're sitting outside in -30 and you're trying to eat a block of frozen cheese, it doesn't really taste or smell like anything. You just eat it, right? Because you know the fuel you need to keep your body warm and keep moving. So what would happen is that I would start eating like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and it would taste fine. It would taste okay. And then I would swallow it. And then halfway through the sandwich, I might burp a little bit. And in the burp, I could taste the white gas.
Oh my God.
And the same thing would happen. I would have these soups that I brought along that I would just throw into a thermos of hot water. And then you'd crack it open, and then you could smell the white gas. And you just have to pitch it and keep moving, kind of thing. It was an error. I can own it. I will take responsibility for missing the quality control on that refill of the fuel bottle. But at the same time, like, I just have to own that part of the story. It was a mistake, and I made it. Luckily, it didn't finish the trip. In many cases, a mistake that simple and small could lead to an evacuation, gas poisoning, all kinds of terrible situations could happen. But you know what? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, but I have to own it, and it's just part of the story. And yeah, it's just one of these.
You're not going to do it again. That's the thing. It's definitely a lesson.
Definitely a lesson to be learned there. Check the threads on your fuel caps after you refuel them. Yeah.
That's crazy. And amazing that you're eating these too. And you're so lucky not to get ill.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So how many days in is this then?
That would have been about 10 days in. And our trip was we finished in 25 days, and we covered 400 kilometers. So it was a fraction of the way in.
Did you do alter course at some point?
We did, yeah. So we had originally intended to go to Kangersuk, but this fuel leak became one of the problems, and just the time frame. We quite honestly, David, we bit off more than we could chew, and at a certain point along the journey, it just seemed to us that the safest and most logical direction for us to go was to strike out for the closest community. And that it was plenty. We got everything we were looking for in this journey and more. We didn't need to ski an extra 150 kilometers just to do what we had said we wanted to do. Getting across to Wake and Bay or Kangiksujawak was huge for us, right? Like, it was.
They're both the other side of the peninsula.
Yeah, I still call it a successful expedition.
So what's that conversation like? Is that over several days that you're coming to this conclusion? Like, how does that play out?
Yeah, I mean, within the team dynamics, yeah, it was an ongoing conversation, kind of from the point of the fuel bottle spill onwards, but it just became more and more clear. By the time we got to the Pingualuit Crater, it was quite clear where our goal should be. It just spoke for us. We didn't really need to communicate with each other about it a whole lot. The writing was written in the snow for us. Yeah.
So you're at the crater, though, what is that like? To be in that spot where probably not a lot of people have been.
Yeah, it's not a super popular place to go, no. But Nunavik tourism actually has... So I will preface all this with the Pingualuit Crater National Park, being in Quebec, has phenomenal infrastructure. And we were not aware of how amazing the infrastructure was until we got there. So they've gone above and beyond to set up a base camp at the base of the crater itself as like an ecotourism destination. And in the summertime, they actually have an airstrip there, and they'll fly clients and guests and tourists too, which obviously makes it significantly easier to access. But for anyone looking to cut their teeth in Arctic travel, this route that we picked, I'm really hoping to see that it inspires other budding adventurers. It just provides the best route possible to get started in this type of travel, and mainly because Pingualuit Crater National Park has created this amazing bit of infrastructure to support you along the way. So from Wakem Bay, traveling west to Pingualuit Crater is about 150 kilometers. And the park and the community has set up a corridor, like a trail. Like it would be an extreme hiking trail, very remote, but there is a route. There are cairns along the way. And there's a number of outbuildings or cabins, that like prefabricated cabins they've placed along this corridor to reach the headquarters or base camp at Pingualuit Crater. So for us, the last 150 kilometers, although it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, there was existing infrastructure there that we utilized, such as cairns for following the route back down to the ocean. It's just... Again, it was so hard to find this information before we left, but having feet on the ground and seeing and knowing the knowledge I have now of that area, it's a fantastic area to go for ecotourism and adventure tourism. They have it all there.
And you say they set up, there's a base camp there. So is there a cabin? What was that?
Yeah, there's a series of cabins. They have 4 prefabricated cabins at the base camp. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, luxury.
Pure luxury. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For you guys, like, what are you, like 12 days in or something like that? That must have been heaven.
Yeah, we were. It was like heaven. Yeah. And we had pretty good weather forecasting with our DeLorme InReach, but also from our outside safety person. And so we knew there was a big blizzard coming in about 3 days in advance of it actually settling in on us. So we had a big push to get to the headquarters before the blizzard officially rolled in, and we were grounded there for a couple of days because we'd put in all this effort to get to the crater. And our first attempt, we went up to the top, to the crater rim, and it was this crazy whiteout situation where we couldn't even see our feet. We couldn't figure out which way was up or down or right or left. So we ended up hanging out at the base camp for a couple of days, waiting for the blizzard to clear so that we could get up to the crater rim and get some good images and shots from it.
So is it kind of a lake now? Or?
It is, actually. It's the deepest lake in Quebec. It's said to have some of the purest water in the river. So there's no inflow to it. There's no source of water other than rain. And they say it takes about 500 years for all the water in the lake to cycle itself through. It really is a pristine environment.
There must be fascinating fish populations.
There is.
I think there'd be.
There's landlocked populations of char in the lake.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yes, it's this amazing part of Canada that just nobody's really talking about. But again, as I keep saying, they have amazing infrastructure there. The geography, geology, wildlife, it's all fantastic. It really is fantastic.
Prior to getting to your luxury cabins, were you guys all packed in one tent, right? Just for body heat, that kind of thing? Is that right?
Okay, yeah. So another error. We thought we could all fit into one 3-person tent. Turned out not to be the case. So last minute, we decided to bring along a second tent. And this was actually a saving grace for Chris and I, because the third person on the trip, Lee, is a chronic snorer. The guy can saw logs like nobody I've ever met before. And so it actually worked out really well because we could segregate him to his own tent at night. Yeah, and he could sleep by himself and we could sleep in peace.
And you're obviously, you're packing in the miles every day. So are you sleeping well at night despite the cold?
Very well. Yeah, no problem at all. We averaged 16 kilometers a day. Our longest day was 27, which was an enormous push. We were hitting our numbers every single day, our magic numbers for an average. So it was a significant amount of work. So we had no problem sleeping at night, even in those extreme cold temperatures.
So we should talk more about gear too. You're on cross-country skis.
We did, yeah. We had some Rosganol 65s, so they're 65 millimeters wide at the foot. And then we had skins on them as well. We made the skins ourselves, so a lot of the gear we took, we actually made ourselves. So our tanks, our bags that we put into the sleds we made, our skins we made, and our harnesses for the sleds we actually made as well. And the skins were really good. We left them on the skis the whole time. It was cold enough for a lot of the trip. I don't think we actually needed the skins, but we were worried that if we took the skins off, we would never be able to warm them up enough again to stick them back on the skis. So we just left them on the whole trip. Yeah.
And then in terms of layers when you're out there. Tell me what you got. Obviously, you got merino wool at the bottom of that.
You know, I had a really good tip from Reza Hab, a former guest of this podcast. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah. He's done similar trips.
That's right. He was huge. He was an enormous help for me and our team. Yeah. Anytime I had a question,
lovely guy.
I would just reach out. He would always just answer. He'd just call me and tell me everything I needed to know. And he gave me a great tip that I'd never heard, and it's no merino wool in the Arctic. Because merino wool, although it will wick the moisture away from your skin, it holds on to the moisture. So it's all synthetics all the time when you're traveling in an Arctic environment.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I never thought of that either. We just kind of had our normal base layers. Like when we're moving during the day, you're not actually, even in minus 30 in a wind chill, you're not actually wearing as much as you would imagine because you're working pretty hard. So your breaks are pretty short, but you're just really consistently moving all the time. So we had long underwear, sometimes 2 pairs depending on the cold, and then shell pants. And then the top would be similar, just a synthetic top as a base layer, and then maybe a fleece. And then Chris and I both had anoraks from Lure of the North, like a heavy canvas style. And we found them to work incredibly well to cut the wind out, but also just a Gore-Tex rain jacket worked pretty much just the same too. So we just largely just used the gear that we had. We invested a little bit in some better clothing for ourselves, but we had quite a bit of help from Baffin. They pitched in too, and they donated to the team polar mitts and then those down pants and the polar parka as well. And that was a huge bit for us and our level of comfort and sitting down to eat lunch every day or like an extended break on the sleds in camp at night in the morning. It was enormous for our level of comfort. I can't imagine how uncomfortable we would have been without that essential piece of kit from Baffin. Yeah, it's hugely helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, hugely important. The core needs to be warm, but the extremities too.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. And it's just another barrier. These trips are not cheap. So just doing that legwork and seeking the sponsorships and the help, it was a key factor in our success, I think. Even though I think you could do it with whatever you have at home and make it work. 100 years ago, that's what they were doing, right? But they were also a lot more uncomfortable than we were in very different circumstances than we were too.
And food? So what are you guys eating? And I want to tell you, so I have 2 nephews right now who are sailing through the Northwest Passage.
Yeah, you do.
And their meals, they're the low bar on this. Their meals were oatmeal in the morning and they ate pork and beans at night every day. Every day, yeah. So that's all you got to clear.
Our meals, dinner was always those freeze-dried meals. We had a lot of Happy Yak in there. And then we would take like a ramen noodle, just like a Mr. Noodle, and just crush it up and put it into the Happy Yak. So then that would bring your caloric intake up by about 400. And then there's Peak Refuel was another company that we used because they actually had portions that were in the 1,000 to 1,200 calorie range. And then with the ramen noodle on top of that. So we'd be getting about 1,600 calories at dinner time alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how much are you eating? How many calories a day are you needing?
Probably about 4,000, and then still losing weight.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. How much weight did you lose then?
I lost about 16 pounds. And I don't have 16 pounds to lose. Yeah. I also lost more weight than the other 2 fellas did because I had less food to eat because I lost it in that fuel accident. And then breakfast typically were just like oatmeals. Yeah. And lunch is always just grab and go. So it's like salami and cheese and handfuls of trail mix and nuts. We each had 2-liter thermos with us. We'd put soup in. So we'd have a hot thermos of liquids throughout the day, and then peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They last really well. These kind of typical, you can just grab and eat and go things. And then butter. We all brought sticks of butter. Like you can buy butter in 1 pound, but they come in the 1/4 pound little sticks. And then before the trip, we cut those into thirds. And then for every breakfast and lunch, you could take a third of a stick of butter and just plop it in. It's just butter.
Just melt it into whatever you're,
Yeah. And you see a lot of people on these types of trips, they'll take cubes of like olive oil is another good example, really high for weight to calorie ratio. Olive oils.
I think Ray does.
Yeah,
that.
Ray and Kevin were doing that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Butter works too. It's easier to access and deal with once you're at your starting point too. Yeah.
So just describe the landscape you're going through, because in my head it's white and flat, but obviously there's a great deal of beauty to it.
So we did get a little bit of that. At the beginning of the trip, when we were following these river corridors into the interior, we went up the Iktotat and the Pervernituk River. There was quite a bit of landscape, like the valley walls. They were stunning to watch as we skied by them. There's quite a bit of topography. But when we made that jump from the Iktotat River over to the Pervernituk River, we had 3 or 4 days of skiing through the flats and what you would imagine Greenland or Antarctica to look like, where it's just completely flat and just as far as the eye could see, just really no contours or anything. And that was an experience that I really appreciated because that was one of the things I really wanted to witness and see for myself. So following the river corridors is amazing because it's very straightforward, but then when you're up in this contourless land, that's the Arctic experience that I wanted. And I got it up there. We really got to dive into it and use our compasses for navigation and really get that experience of the full-on barren tundra. And then the third part of the trip was actually, we didn't reach our highest elevation on the entire route until the second last day. So on day 23, we finally topped out at our highest place.
Which is, how high are you there?
It's about 540 meters. So it's not overly high, but we spent 23 days to get to this. So it always felt like a bit of a grind. Are we always going to go uphill? I don't understand how this is possible. But we quite almost literally did. And then the last 2 days, we dropped the 500 meters back down to the sea ice. And it was fast. It was fast, and it was super fun. We had a really good time with that.
Yeah. No, I bet. And then are you on the sea ice then for a bit?
Just the sea ice. Yeah, we're on sea ice for the last 2 days skiing into Wakem Bay. So in the first half of the trip was extremely cold with high pressure, blue skies. We had these like amazing sun phenomena with the halos and the arcs, and it was incredible, but like really uncomfortable and cold. And then after that blizzard hit at the midway point, we had a low pressure system with us for the remainder of the trip. So the temperatures were significantly warmer, -5, -10. So then we had a whole different set of challenges to face of getting too warm. And the other issue that brought with us is that we had clouds that was keeping the heat in, but it also produced this super flat light. So there was no contrast at all. It really was like, I've heard other Arctic travelers explain it like skiing inside of a ping pong ball. And for those last 10 days, it was exactly that. You couldn't figure out which way was up or down or right or left. You could look down and see that your feet were attached to skis, but you couldn't see any hills. You couldn't see any of the you couldn't see anything at all. And we found it really exhausting following the compass bearings.
That's fascinating.
Traveling through
there's no horizon, really.
It really wasn't. It was like following in this endless fog. And it was just another part of the experience I was hoping to get and did that I'd heard from reading from other people's travels in Arctic environments. Yeah. The ping pong ball effect. Yeah.
Good on you, Dave.
Yeah, we got it. We got it in spades. Yeah.
And so no polar bears, any other wildlife, or were you it?
We saw one red fox right in the middle. Yeah. Came in, visited our camp. I always carry along with me a satchel of dried herbs from the medicine wheel. So it has tobacco, sweetgrass, sage, and cedar in it. And I gave an offering to the red fox, and he curled up 20 yards behind our tent. And he was there in the morning when we woke up, but he didn't try to get into any of our sleds or anything. I don't know. I kind of had a special moment with little red fox there. And then we saw some like ravens, but otherwise we didn't see any wildlife at all.
And then the coastline is just locked up in ice, right?
Very much so. Yeah.
Even in March. And when it's the end of March by the time you're...
It was mid-April by the time we finished the trip.
Mid-April.
Yeah.
It's still locked in.
Still locked in. Still very much winter. We could have left probably a month later and successfully done the route with more daylight and warmer temperatures. So you could go up there in mid-April and ski the same route and have the same level of success, I would think.
A bit less success because it's so much warmer. Right?
Depends on what experience you're trying to get.
The purpose of the trip, did you nail that, or is it something else you came out of it with?
There would be multiple parts to that. The purpose of the trip, intrinsically for me, was to cut my teeth in Arctic travel, to get up there and experience the land, to see everything that I described with the extreme colds, the tundra barrens, and then also the ping pong ball fog. But it was also, professionally, I work as an elementary school teacher, and it's been a dream of mine for a long time to try to engage students in real time in an expedition that I'm participating in. And as a school teacher, it's really hard to get time off when students are in session. So I took this deferred leave for 6 months with the sole intention of going on a long or an extended winter expedition during that time, so that I created a whole bunch of curriculum before I left and got it into the hands of teachers at my school and then a bunch of other schools around Nova Scotia, so that kids could follow along with that curriculum in real time. And then I also went into my school and again a bunch of other schools and did presentations before I left, and then again a debrief presentations when I came back. And then while I was out there, I was able to text out how far we traveled, the weather, and a daily haiku, as well as use our satellite phone to give an audio update, which was all linked directly into an interactive map on my website that was put together with 060. It was really slick. It was really slick. 060 has a good thing going on there with adventure maps. And then I just linked it all together with my own curriculum and my own outreach so that students could take that information and they could track how far we traveled in a week or over the course of the whole trip. And they could compare our weather and temperatures to their weather and temperatures. And then they could also learn. I use a little piece of poetry in all of my expeditions. I picked this up from Frank Wolf years ago, but I send out a haiku every day. It's a really concise way of expressing yourself in poetry. So kids got to learn about that. And then there's also lessons in there about specific geography and the communities and the culture that we were traveling through, the Inuktitut language and the Inuit people. So I was able to take all these things that I love so much and I'm so fascinated by, but then put them into a way that 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds would be able to understand and like grasp in real time. That's Mr. Greene up there. That's our teacher doing this really cool thing. So to be able to take my passion professionally, but then my passion personally, and put them together into one package, it was amazing. It was amazing. I loved it. And it was a huge success. I still have little kids coming up to me at recess time out on the playground, 5, 6, 7-year-olds coming up going, "Hey, Mr. Greene, how was your trip? I want to hear all about it. It looked so great." And that's just, for me, that just warms my heart. That's what it's all about. Just to share with these students opportunities they would otherwise never get.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure you're the same as me. The Arctic was a very alien, faraway place when I was a kid. And to have that sort of real link is, what a gift. And this is all our country, this is all Canada. So, we need to appreciate it. East, west, north, south. Yeah. So were you guys all talking to each other by the end? Is that still good? Yeah, we're all still buds. We took some time off of each other, but we're still friends. Yeah. Yeah. Good. That's good. Dynamic's a good one. We do it again.
We had no issues there. We were a good team. And we were very much 3 individuals working towards one common goal. So I didn't have to take care of the other 2 gentlemen. They didn't have to take care of me, but we were all collectively working towards the same goal. So we were a good team in that sense.
Yeah. I guess a lot of your day is really solitary, isn't it?
Very much. There's not a whole lot of talking from the time you ski away from your campsite to getting into the next campsite.
Are you listening to stuff as you're out there?
I don't. One guy did, and that's totally fine. Each to themselves. I have this theory, the same when I go for runs, that I don't want to distract myself from the thing I'm intentionally doing. And it's also, these trips are my opportunity to unplug. It's more like a moving meditation for me, and I like being there.
Do you notice your head opening up stuff when you're out there, like that you maybe are surprised with or not? Yeah.
I've tried to go into long expeditions before looking for an epiphany light bulb moment, and they never come. It's not how it works. The rest of the world and society and your problems and the issues, they all generally start to just fade away. And it's almost like they don't exist anymore while you're on the trip. And then there's a rude awakening when you come back and realize that the world kept spinning while you were away, and all of those things still exist.
That's not an epiphany, but there is something to that, though. I mean, it's part of what I love being foreign correspondent was you'd have these 2-3 week blocks of time where that's all you're doing.
Right.
And you're doing it 7 days a week.
I spend a lot of time thinking about people and conversations that I've had and regrets, conversations I wish I'd had or ones that I wish had gone better. So I always tell people before they leave for an extended trip or expedition that it really gives us an opportunity to reach out to our friends and our family if you love somebody, tell them before you go. And if you appreciate somebody, tell them before you go. And it's because it's those conversations that you have with the people who are closest to you that you need to have to lean upon when times get really hard. So oftentimes when I would be skiing along, I would go back to those memories of my friends and family and the conversations we would have and my level of appreciation for them. And sometimes I would just pick somebody and I would spend those 2 hours thinking about them.
And what a gift, because we don't get that opportunity.
That's right.
In this day and age. Well, what a great adventure. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And what's next? There's always something coming up.
Oh, man. So as amazing as it was, taking a deferred leave was financially a very poor life choice. Yeah, I got to go back to work for a while, David. Maybe next summer. I can get out on another big canoe trip, but we'll see.
Good. We'll talk about that for sure, because we do love a good canoe adventure. But listen, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your northern adventures with us, Dave. And thanks to all of you for listening. Remember, Canadian Geographic Magazine makes an excellent holiday gift. Just go to canadiangeographic.ca/subscribe. And can you do us a big favor too? Give us a 5-star rating and write a review about us where you listen. We've got our elbows up for Canada every 2 weeks here on this podcast, celebrating our land and people. There's no one else doing what we do here on Explore. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes and share the link to this story with friends. Until next time, when we'll explore again, with my elbows up, I'm David McGuffin.
I think right now we're enjoying very much looking back at the Earth, and it's just a fantastic experience, and I just can't wait to get back and start telling people.
We left Simpson about June the 10th with a fur brigade consisting of a number of yacht boats, each manned by 10 voyageurs.
For us Inuit, it means that Inuit oral history is very strong.
And we flew low over every inch of the country that could be. We were hoping that he would fire at us.
I guess 160 dives or so. There are shrimp, fish swimming around outside. It's just fabulous here.
Well, I'm a first for Canada.